Hi everyone, it's Stephen Handysides and we are back for a fantastic week, and I have a very, very special guest, and it's Tracy Panzarella, who is the CEO of Youthgevity. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thank you, Stephen. Nice to be here.
Tracy, tell me about the name Youthgevity. That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, it's actually a name that I came up with. We've all heard of longevity, which is living as long as we can, but who wants to live as long as you can unless you're living youthfully? So I like this concept of living younger longer, not just living longer. And between what we're learning about medicine and diet and nutrition, it's very doable. So Youthgevity is how to live younger longer, and it's really all encompassing. It's aesthetics, which that's part of your world.
Yep.
It's diet, nutrition, it's mindset, it's sleep. So it's very comprehensive.
And look, I met you a couple of years ago, and I've always been inspired about how you've integrated a real holistic approach to, feeling good from the inside and outside. And, we're so bombarded every day by a new diet that's out on television, on the radio, and, I would like to say that I haven't tried them, but, I have tried a couple of diets. You've tried them?
I've tried them. Some of them even get me.
Tell me what was your favorite one, which probably might not have worked, but what was a real fun one that you did that...
I kind of went the paleo route for a little while.
Okay,
That seemed like it might have made a little bit of sense. And every so often, you feel like I could just do a little bit more. Maybe I could, whether it's lose that 5 pounds or increase my game or whatever it is, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'll hear somebody who's tried this or that, and it's like, I wonder if I should give that a whirl. And usually the answer is no.
Yeah, I was doing, I think it was about 5 years ago, I was doing a television show. I was doing 2 live shows a day. It was called Body and Balance. So it was all around nutrition and diet, and I had a nutritionist in every day, a new one, and they were always talking about their particular diet, and one of them decided to put it to the test with me, and it was a juice diet, and it was a vegetable juice diet, and I tell you, I lasted about 2.5 days because I was getting up and I was having to actually present these shows. My headache was just killing me. And is that a normal thing with headaches? And
well, it can be, because it sounds like you were detoxing very quickly.
Right.
And when people do go on these detox diets, they can get headaches, or if you give up caffeine, or a lot of times what happens is somebody goes to a nutritionist and the nutritionist pulls the plug on everything they're doing. And they put them down this path. They send them out the door with a bag of supplements. They're not sure when or how many to take, but they're going to try to be a very compliant and good patient and follow all the rules. And they last for about 4 days.
Yeah.
And then you just fall flat on your face. And the problem with detox diets, detox is really not something that you should just play with. There's 3 pathways to detox, and you can actually detox on one pathway and then create more toxins in your system if you're not clearing the others. So detox is something that you really do need some guidance on, and not to mention that when you go on like a juice cleanse, or I'm sure that's what they called it, right? A juice cleanse, you're going to feel fabulous. And you're like, then you start to think, what the hell is the matter with me? I don't feel fabulous. I feel terrible.
Yeah, and I think there is that first part of it, isn't it, where you just feel horrible and you have these headaches or migraines and feel like you want to kill yourself. But then it gets better, doesn't it? And then you start to feel the benefits over that week. Is it generally a week or 10 days you would do a detox diet? Or?
It kind of depends. Well, a lot of detox diets, it depends on what kind you're doing. Are you doing a liver detox? Are you doing a sugar detox? Are you doing there's so many different kinds that you can do out there. Usually for most people there is an adjustment period. And the hard part is that when people start that way, they don't end that way. And just taking detox diets, people need to understand that those are very short-term types of programs, and then you're supposed to get into something that you can maintain. I'm sort of an advocate of you don't have to do the detox part. You can just get into something that is livable and manageable. So I have a different program. Mine is to detox off of all of the diets, because that's where I think we're a little bit, we've all been sort of trying this one, trying that one, and if you're, there's so much information out there right now. Social media, the internet, the television. Every day there's something new coming out about this diet or that diet. And we really just need to return to our senses.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is your guidance? If, I mean, I know there's a lot of our listeners that have written in and said, we've tried these diets, they don't work, and it is like a yo-yo effect. I mean, so what's your advice in terms of what, you coach and you teach people? I mean, what's the best strategy to really, start thinking? How do they start off?
Well, and this really comes from, I'm a researcher. That's what I really do. I've got a background in nutrition. I've got a background in life coaching. I'm board certified through the American Academy of Anti-Aging. I'm really looking at not the short term, like how am I going to look in my skinny jeans? Because those types of diets can be much more detrimental and cause much more stress to the system. So it really is a return to, if you want to do the best possible diet that you can, it's the anti-inflammatory diet, which really isn't a diet. This is just returning to whole foods and getting away from foods that cause inflammation. They're finding that inflammation is the precursor to neurodegenerative diseases, to type 2 diabetes, to aging, to cancers. I mean, inflammation is really what will age you.
And is this the sugars that are in foods?
There's other food sources that cause inflammation, but you can start with processed foods and sugars. Those are two really well-known inflammatory markers, and just taking that out. I tell people, I go raid your pantry, which does not mean eat everything in it. Raiding your pantry means throw that stuff out. If you go into my pantry, I don't have sugar, I don't have flour. I have some canned goods, but I don't have a lot of processed foods. And that's a good place to start when you're talking about pulling the inflammatory foods out of your diet.
And talking about fresh produce, I mean, there is no real excuse for people not to be able to pick up some fresh food from. I mean, there's convenience stores everywhere these days. But what do you think? I mean, there's been a lot of arguments and conversations out there around, the quality of food today wasn't really the same as it was 10, 20 years ago in terms of the minerals and stuff. You need
the soil's depleted.
The soil's depleted. You need 10 times much more broccoli than what you used to.
Well, and that's where eating organic and certified organic does make a difference. I really think if you have access to a farmer's market, that is the best way to go. Your prices are maybe a little bit more. But truly, when you get into eating foods that are rich in those vitamins and minerals that you need, you'll find that you eat less. So it kind of balances out in terms of the price of everything. And some grocery stores do a really great job of giving you the choice of the organic foods. But still, my favorite is to hit those farmers markets, which, here in Newport Beach and in Southern California where we live, they're everywhere. But they've also become a bigger part of the culture of every urban city.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed. I mean, in London even, we used to go out to the farmers markets on a Sunday, and it was good. I mean, it was great to actually give back to the local farmers and the producers of that food. But it really did make a difference when you're cooking with really nice, fresh produce. I mean, huge difference. I mean, what's some of the other things that consumers should avoid in terms of the the inflammatory?
The inflammatory? Well, like we said, the processed foods, any kind of the drinks, the Cokes and all those types of things. But the big one that most people, they'll dig their heels in, they're not going to give up, is their wine. And I mean...
You're looking at me there very attentively, so I'm thinking...
I think that bread used to be the one that people would hang on to for dear life.
Yeah.
But people don't want to give up their wine and their alcohol. So they think, well, I'm not drinking wine, I'm drinking vodka. And unfortunately for the females out there listening, we are able to metabolize much less alcohol than our male counterparts. But still, alcohol does cause inflammation. And so it's hard to really be mindful and looking out for your health when you are drinking on a daily basis, which is now kind of what people do. I mean, it used to be, I think they keep pushing the marker out for when do you have a problem with alcohol. It used to be, I think,
it's
people...
It's the dreaded question from a doctor. It's like, how many units do you drink a week? And I think, you're right. People are drinking every night.
Every night. They come home and, and they're not having the 4 to 6 ounces. They're, filling up a wine glass, and it's at least 1 to 1.5 glasses. So it's, and, I don't pass any judgment on the drinking part of it. I'm just looking at it purely from a health perspective. And I will tell you that it ages you very quickly to be drinking on a nightly basis. It does.
That whole idea around a glass of red wine a night,
well,
or half a glass.
It's like 4 ounces. And that whole idea about a glass of red wine a night, you're getting resveratrol, which is a great antioxidant. That's all okay. And, it's a little bit different because our wines have more preservatives and additives, and they have to. When you go to Europe, where you're from and travel the world, those wines are different. They don't have all those additional chemicals in them. And because of the FDA, we do. So it changes the composition a little bit. But still, let's say that, you want to have a little glass of digestive wine with your dinner. It's like 4 ounces. That's it. Which
Tracy,
the difference.
I've got a great idea for you. So going to a vineyard and you're having less than 4 ounces for each one of those tasters, that must be okay, surely.
Yeah, as long as you don't do it more than 4 times. Yeah.
So I mean that's the big thing. I mean, I think alcohol. I mean, I know a lot of my friends as well. When they're wanting to lose weight, they'll switch to something like vodka or gin or something because it's got less calories. But what you're saying is that it might maybe have less calories, but there's still that inflammatory.
Yeah, and you're still putting a lot of pressures on the liver, and then you have to look at sort of the glycemic index. How quickly does it cause your insulin to rise? And then the biggest thing, I think, especially for women, is that you have a glass of wine or even a vodka, it lowers your defenses to say no to everything else. There's something, you get a little more loosey-goosey with your eating when you've had the alcohol. It sort of gives you permission in a sense to be bad.
Do you know in London every country has their own sort of food. Once you've had a few too many drinks at the end of the night in London, it was always a kebab.
Oh, really? That's not even so bad for you.
A dirty kebab. Why? What do they have here? Is it
burgers and fries or pizza? That's much worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we, as I say, you can take drinking to another level, isn't it? And then it builds up a hunger, and then we start to eat bad foods, and obviously we're wondering why we're putting on weight or we're not looking the way we should because we forget about those things.
Well, and the biggest problem is in anybody who, has even a couple of cocktails every night, they know that it interrupts your sleep. There's a whole lot that goes on with your blood sugar control with that. You fall asleep because you're tired, the wine relaxes you, and then you find yourself waking up around 3 o'clock in the morning. You're thirsty, you're wide awake. Well, this is all imbalances in your blood sugar control. And now you're not getting the uninterrupted sleep that you need, which also helps to maintain or lose weight. So it's really a big interrupter in the cycle of health.
One thing I'm always really, really intrigued with was, many, many years ago, we always got told that, especially when you're training, is, cut out the calories by taking out the carbs, and then focusing more on the protein, which I think was at the Dukan diet that was very heavy on protein, and but now we're talking about bringing good quality fats into our diet. Can you explain a little bit about that, how that's all sort of changed the mindset, and is it good, is it not, and I presume everything's in moderation anyway.
You're right about that. Everything is in moderation. Most people, they want to be told some way to eat. And I have this theory. I think people go to nutritionists or health practitioners to put them on a diet so that they have someone to hate.
Yeah.
and someone to rebel against. And I really, I think that you definitely want good fats in your diet. You want those omega-3s, which are your fish oils. The problem is we're a little bit imbalanced when it comes to saturated versus the polyunsaturated or the monosaturated fats. Our diet tends to include a lot of saturated fats, even if you just completely eliminate trans fats, which absolutely no one should have in their diet. And let's say you're just focused on, the saturated fats. People will eat a balance of like 6-to-1. Saturated to omega-3s. So you really want that to be more like a 1-to-1. So, the olive oils, the flax oils, those are all very good. And yes, they're excellent for health. But fats and oils, they all have their place. Carbohydrates, they've gotten a bad rap, the carbohydrate. And I'm not talking about breads and pastas and cookies and all that. I mean, my carbohydrates come from green leafy vegetables, some fruits. I need those carbohydrates for sustaining life and for having energy. And then you've got your proteins. I always start people on something modified. You've heard of the 40-30-30, right? 40% carbs, 30 fat, 30 proteins, and then you start to play with that a little bit. But first you got to get the bad stuff out. And, the way to do that is some people like to go cold turkey, but for other people, it's sort of like, well, I'll take this bad thing out and I'll put this good thing in, However you get there, people have to understand you are in it for life. It's not something that you're going to do for 6 weeks so that you can lose 10 pounds and go back to eating bar food.
Yeah, I know
it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I've grown up. I think my mother's been on the Jenny Craig diet. I don't know if you have that in the US. We have it in New Zealand,
and a lot of processed foods.
Yeah. Well, we're not even going to start to get into that one. I'm just even talking about. Must have been on it for 20 years. Ever since I was a kid, she was doing Jenny Craig. But
she's still trying to lose the same 10 pounds.
Yeah, so you know what I mean? Like, it's before she goes away, and she has, she does that diet, and then, she's out. Always with friends, and they're eating at nice restaurants, and then wonders why that she hasn't really lost the pounds that she should have. She sees the small changes, but then it can really quickly go back to
very quickly
where it's at.
And any time you start, like even on the ketogenic diet, people will lose a lot of weight right in the beginning. A lot of that is water weight, and that tends to be with a lot of different diets. So, you can have kind of that immediate. Now, what I'm most concerned about are people that go on the typical like crash diet, where they're doing the cayenne pepper and the water and the molasses syrup. Things that just don't make any sense from a nutrition standpoint. And then on top of it, they're supplementing with some kind of, I call them a go-go drug, some kind of a speed that it speeds up your metabolism, those types of things, the fen-phens, even the HCG diet, which was so popular for a while. I haven't seen one person be able to sustain what they gained from the loss. They swing back. So we're really not treating our bodies with respect when we participate in those kinds of weight loss.
Yeah, I think, I mean, what you said, it could do more damage to the body, you know, to our internal organs and things like that. I mean, in terms of just giving some advice to everyone, I mean, so when they go shopping, you know, a lot of us will just go there and then figure out what we need to buy. I mean, how important is planning before you go to the supermarket?
Well, eat first. That's most important.
Good point.
And planning is important. You know, I get this because I know that to eat healthy, it takes effort. Sometimes you got to meal plan and you got to meal prep on a Sunday. And what happens is if you're not sort of ready for your week, you get kind of caught off guard, especially when you're first starting to eat this way, because you're so used to grab and go food that you don't realize, you know, that you can make a good meal in a short amount of time too, but you got to be ready. You got to have your stuff there, good to go. I had someone staying with me not too long ago, and I look at my refrigerator, which is where the most of my food supply is. I have a very small pantry, very big refrigerator. I have two, actually. And she opens the refrigerator and closes it, and I'm like, is there something you need? She goes, you just don't have anything to eat. And I'm like, oh, because I don't have anything like grab and go.
Yeah, the snacks.
So that's where you need you need your shopping list. You need a strategy. You do.
Yeah.
But if you're a super busy, you know, executive or mom on the go or whatever it is, there are some really good home delivery services that serve up a pretty decent plant-based or organic meats. You know, you need to kind of look in your area, and that's not a bad way to start, even if you supplement one meal, because people can get overwhelmed with meal prep. And then
sure.
that just gets so hard for them that they give up.
Yeah, I know. I knew a couple of companies. Two of my friends actually back in New Zealand actually run these companies, and one of them was they would actually prep the whole meal and then it would get delivered, and then you'd basically put it in the oven, heat it up. And the other one was very clever. They'd come out with all the fresh ingredients and they'd plan it out for 7 meals in 7 days, and then you would just obviously cook it up and make it.
Yeah, and there's services like Blue Apron will do that, and there's other services where, like, I know Thistle is pretty popular right now. But you just have to be careful when you're looking at the dressings, like are they using canola oils and things like that, because you want to really stick to good olive oils or flaxseed oils. But in truth, you know, if people were to make their health the priority, I would love to one day see the scale disappear, and instead you jump on and the meter goes from unhealthy to healthy. And the closer you are to healthy, you know, it's like, yes, you know, instead of looking at a number. Those numbers are just so completely disorienting anyway. And what do they really mean? You know, I know that in my lifetime, my weight has probably stayed within 5 to 7 pounds always, except during the times I was pregnant.
Wow.
And that's the only time that, you know, and yes, I am very disciplined, and it does take a certain amount of discipline, but, you know, I've done this for so long that my mind now is following my body. My mind is on the wavelength that, oh, well, this must be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's no longer trying to trick me.
Well, one of the hardest things is, and I know this myself, is going out, you know, getting invited out to a restaurant with friends or clients. How do you control, if you're going to a restaurant, say it's a Chinese restaurant, there ain't a lot of healthy options, you know. No. So do you avoid those types of engagements, or do you bring your own lunchbox, or how do you do it? I mean, what's
No, I mean, I go out to dinner, you know, and I go out to eat. I try to pick a place that's more healthy, you know, but I'll choose the thing on the menu that is probably the healthiest thing that I can eat. You know, like I know I don't eat the bread beforehand. If you don't drink, that changes things around a lot. And you get a piece of fish or a piece of chicken and some vegetables. I mean, there's ways to eat healthier. You're still going to get added fats and, because we don't really know what they do back there to make this food taste so wonderful. But again, that's an in moderation type of thing.
Yeah.
You can do everything. And I try to stay within, I don't look at my weight like I have to have a number. I have to be at this many pounds. I keep a balance zone, right? So my balance zone, I base this on, how big my bones are and this and that. So for me, like 5 pounds is a good balance zone because I've got pretty small bones and, tall, but I'm built a certain way. So when I start to get to the upper end of that balance zone, then that would not be the time that I'm doing a lot of going out to eat, and I would say, no, I need to be more moderate and really kind of pay attention here. I need to get back on track. If I'm on the lower end of that balance zone, I don't want to drop below it, but I've got a little bit more latitude. So for me, that's kind of a good guide.
Yeah, that's good. No, I think we got told, again by a couple of different people. It's like, well, you can eat, try and have a really good diet during the week, and maybe one day sort of cheat day. Is that true, or is that sort of?
Well, you can. I could do that until I hit a certain age.
Right.
And then it all kind of changes. And I see women every single day that come in, they're like, shit, I hit 40 and I don't know what happened. Or, for some women it's 40, it's 45, it's 50. I just had a birthday. I just turned 55. And so this is where I think it's so important to be in touch and know your body. So in the last probably 6 months, my body has just wanted more plant-based foods. That's just what it's been asking for. And I haven't really wanted to eat red meats. I've wanted more, turkeys and fishes and things like that. I just listen, and that does make a big difference. But you have to, first of all, be in your body. A lot of people aren't even in their body. They're floating around somewhere around it.
Yeah.
And you have to know what it feels like to feel healthy.
Yeah.
People forget.
Yep. No, 100%.
You wake up, you're already tired. You're barely stumbling to the coffee pot to get the injection so that you can get to the next step. I like to take a few moments, check in with my body, and if something's off, then we talk.
Yeah, and I know that even when I change my diet, and if I have a bad diet and I've been traveling, and you can really feel it. But I think sleep, exercise, and diet. If I don't get that, then I'm feeling pretty groggy in the morning, and it's a lot more harder to concentrate at work. And just actually getting an extra hour's sleep before midnight, I find it makes a huge difference. And it's so good. But yeah, it's a minefield out there, in with all the information on the websites and what different people tell you. I mean, you're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I'm excited to have you on as a guest, numerous times, because there's so many interesting topics out there, so many little myths to bust.
There are, and I guess if I were to leave people with anything today, I always find that, most people, when you talk to them, they know what to eat and they know what not to eat. If it's boxed, if it sits on a shelf, one rule to follow: if it doesn't rot, don't eat it. So if you think about that, vegetables rot, meat rots, you kind of stick to that premise, you're going to do okay. And you don't have to be a chemist to get down to the percentages of, this and that. And, that'll make you nuts. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like, let's get back to a simplified plan of, eating whole foods and eating, probably less than people think they need to eat. But once you get more in balance, you start to eat the right amounts. I'm not a big calorie counter. I don't like that.
I like you. So there we have it. There's Tracy. So Tracy, if anyone wants to find out sort of more information or get in contact with you, what's the best details?
You can find me. You can give me a call at the practice, 949-722-1967, or you can go to the youthgevity.com website.
Great. So thank you so much. It was so informative, and I'm sure all the listeners are going to get rid of those fad diets and actually go to the supermarket and start eating properly. So
it would be nice. They do themselves a favor.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'll put all the other nutritionists, including myself, out of business.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it.